good time zone, hello games committee, and or other folks interested in running this game. My name is Debonair VT. You can call me Bo for short. And today I'm excited to introduce you to Kitsune Tales, more specifically Kiri % new game. Typically, the VT in my name stands for VTuber, but for the next 50 or so minutes, it's instead going to stand for very talkative while I walk y'all through the run. There are a few things I'd like to get out of the way first, so let's get started. First and foremost, Kitsune Tales is a fairly young game. It released back in August of 2024, which happened to be shortly after I started streaming, and was the primary motivator for me to get into speedrunning at all. It's been a consistent part of my lineup since then, and I really hope to see other people pick this game up at some point in the future. Our category for today, Kiri % new game, only focuses on the second act of the game. There's an entire other act that we just won't be touching with this run. This category focuses on the playable character Kiri, the orange fox that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, and Act 1 focuses more on Yuzu, the purple fox that you can see on the left. We'll get to their different playstyles in a little bit. The new game bit of the category title is pretty much what it says on the tin. We need to start a new file and complete this act of the game and the final boss, and that's how the run goes. This means that we start with no items, no money, no special abilities, and we need to unlock all of that as we go. There's two other things real quick before we start this up. First off is the difficulty that we play on. This speedrun uses Out for a Leisurely Stroll difficulty, specifically because of the in-place revive it gives you. We also do use power-ups during levels a couple of times throughout the run, so that is also important for some of our routing. When you would die, rather than the level resetting and being spawned at the beginning, you're respawned where you died on a cloud, similar to a Lakitu cloud in your standard Mario World style games, in the same spot. This allows for both very fast vertical movement or omnidirectional movement, depending on what you need, and gives us the ability to do some unique tricks that involve clipping into the walls and the ceilings and things, and you'll see that a couple of times in this run as well. The second most important thing is this, our magic postcard. Now, the magic postcard is actually magic. It has effects on the game, and we just don't know why yet. But something about these values either creates some kind of game cache or sets up some randomization for some of the mini games in the run, and we're specifically going to be grabbing 2 items from those mini games. So we really want this to be as consistent as we can, and setting everything to 1 means that we will always be able to get the same option when we get to those mini games. So I think that's basically it as far as introductory stuff goes. There is not a timer in my overlay, but there is a timer in the bottom right-hand corner of the game. So you'll be able to keep tabs on that. And as of right now, that is just the timer that we use to do all of our speedruns.com leaderboard run numbers and stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to be using for time for this run. Which is an awesome ad, but from the developers, by the way. So yeah, let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so we're off to a great start. So the very first thing that we need to do is skip a cutscene, and then we need to switch to be Kiri. Now, you'll notice that we had to use the dev menu for that. This is not technically something that you can do in the game right now. However, I do believe with the content update that's coming a little later when this comes out for Switch, we might see something for it. So the very first thing that we do is a neat trick. We're doing something that is known as slope jumping, and it's kind of what it sounds like. If you were to jump off of a slope, or when you slide down a slope, I guess I should start there. When you slide down a slope, you have a certain amount of momentum. As you would expect, that momentum is very high, and you can't really reach it by doing anything else in the game at the moment. If you jump off of any of those slides or jump out of any of those slides, and you aren't pressing a directional button, you'll maintain that momentum, which kind of lets us go horizontally extremely quickly. What you just saw was the tutorial room for Kiri. It explains and teaches the player what special tools and skills that Kiri has that Yuzu doesn't have. But you'll also notice that I skipped all of it, and it's because I've played this game once or twice before, so I already kind of know how it all works. The important things that we do need to know about, though, are that Kiri has a wall jump, which we just saw. Kiri has a slide, like a Mega Man slide, and Kiri can break blocks and bounce off of certain enemies by doing a stomp in the air. And you're going to see all of those as the run progresses. We use all of them at various points. Some of those are more important than others, as we will see as the run goes on. So a lot of the early game here, before we get the rest of our powers, is going to rely on very precise slope jumps like these to kind of move us ahead pretty quickly. As you can see, like even going back and resetting that one right there saved a significant amount of time over just trying to go through the rest of that section normally. The other very, very big difference is you'll notice that Kiri has a sword. Now, I don't remember the last time that I played Super Mario World 3, but I don't think that that's something that any of the characters in that game had. And it does add a cool new level to the movement and routing for this game, because you can just swing when you need to deal with enemies. This room here, this screen, is a very cool example of how the wall jumping works. You're able to get basically all the way up this whole ascent section just using wall kicks, and it takes a lot less time than you would otherwise have. This is where we're introduced to lanterns and the cool things that lanterns do. So lanterns have a couple of very specific functions in this game. First and foremost, they show you the area around them, and sometimes that reveals hidden doors. And hidden doors don't happen super often, but they happen often enough that it's worth mentioning. The other big thing is that it disables ghost aggro. So you probably saw in that stage, a lot of the ghosts, when they saw me, would turn pink and start chasing me. Well, we obviously don't want to deal with that, so anytime that we can pick up a lantern to kind of ward the ghosts off, we will. It makes them stay far away from us, which is what we want. Like, they just get totally disabled. We don't have to worry about them chasing us or being able to hit us or anything like that. So we'll be seeing lanterns quite a lot. Generally, they will be in the ghost house levels, which are kind of your standard sub-castles from your, that you would expect from a Mario game like that. This is going to be, this 1-4 is a great example of kind of all of the early game tricks that we do. So you'll see we're using some death abuse here to fly vertically, so we don't have to do all the way to the right and switch back and then go all the way to the left and switch back. Well, now we're gonna have to go vertically once more. A little unfortunate there. We caught the bug on the very tail end of our invincibility, but it is what it is. And what I just did is the other extremely important mechanic that really sets Kiri apart from other platformer characters, and it is called Refresh. Refresh is the very first sword ability that we're going to get throughout this game, and what it does is every time you kill an enemy in the air, it resets all of your it resets your jump, and it resets all of your sword abilities. And sword abilities are things we are going to be getting a little bit later. But they will be very important to all of our movement and routing throughout the rest of the run once we get there, basically. So the important thing is you get a second jump. And having a second jump, of course, means... unfortunate, we didn't get the slope jump there. Having a second jump, of course, means that you can do things like this and chain quite a bit of both vertical and horizontal movement together, which will become far, far, far more interesting once we have more skills to use it with. We're also going to take a death here so that we can fly north. And this is the end of 1-4. So one of the coolest things about this game is that every trick is attemptable in every run. Even if you only get as far as I did on that slope jump, for instance, we still saved enough time attempting it because we come back right where we die. we saved enough time attempting it that it is basically always worth it to do that, even if you don't make the entire trick count. So that makes this run extremely marathon safe. And we have been able to run this in quite a variety of marathons so far. My very first one was Fireside Pride 2024. And since then, I have been in a couple of showcases and marathons since. I actually have one later today, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, it's a very easy speedrun to get into because it is, 2D platforming. The harder tricks are really towards the end of the game, and you'll be seeing them when we get to that point. But for right now, we just have pretty much free reign to do basically whatever we would like. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So what you just saw at the end of 1.5 there is us doing our Mega Man slide under the water. The slide doesn't really care about your physical location when it's giving you momentum. So you can always kind of use it underwater. And we're going to be using that until we acquire Blade Dash. And Blade Dash is our horizontal movement tool with our sword, which you will see in a little bit here. To unlock all of our abilities, we're going to be fighting an overworld mini-boss, whose name is Erin. Story-wise, she's important for a variety of reasons. But in our case, she is our teacher. And she basically taught us all the stuff that we currently know about Sword. So her boss in the story is a not so great guy, and basically tells her, you need to stop Kiri. She's not allowed to do the things that she's doing. But Erin knows that it's wrong, and so definitely does that and says, I'll stop you, Kiri. I'm going to defeat you with this technique, and you'd better watch really closely at the technique that I'm doing. And in doing so, teaches us how to use all of her sword abilities. So we will both use these. We have to fight her once per world now that we're in World 2. And we're going to be unlocking abilities in every world except for World 6. So we will get to that in a little bit. This is our first usage of an item in-game, and it just kind of saves us from having to wait for that horizontally moving platform to get here for us to keep moving forward. World 3 is another big slope jump level, and we're going to dodge some Tengu here and then hug this one at the end, which is going to give us a cloud, so we're going to be able to skip a very lengthy and slow underwater swimming section so that we can go quickly in other ways. I got a little afraid of that spike block at the end there. At the end of that slope jump, you do end up landing with just enough. You bounce into the water just enough that you can clip those spikes with your little toesies. And that, of course, would be slower than just slowing down a little bit. But a pretty good 2-3 overall. Now we're going to go into the World 2 Ghost House. This Ghost House is the one where we're going to be kind of showing off how to get crunched and what the benefits of doing that are. It's not always useful, but it is useful enough oftentimes that we can get away with it. I missed the cycle there, which isn't too bad. This is not as bad of a cycle as it could be. This is kind of supposed to be a stealth section in the game. You're supposed to use a lot of these blocks and things to avoid the ghost that's hanging out in here, because obviously the ghost is not super keen on you running through his space and stuff, but we got through there just fine. So in this room, you can see everything is kind of based on cycles, and we don't want to wait around for that. So what we're going to do is get crunched into the wall here, and you can see that all of my collision has been disabled until I enter like a proper game screen again. And we can use a combination of getting crunched into the wall and clouds to get all the way up to the top of this room very, very quickly. A couple of these are pretty tight. That one in particular, you have to time that little hop off the cloud very, very particularly to avoid falling down and then losing a bunch of cycles, but we got through it just fine. So now we're going to fight our first mini boss of the game. You can see there's a little foxling over there that's going to animate this suit of armor, and this suit of armor has one attack right now, which is this triple stab forwards. The triple stab is great. It's very predictable, and we can kind of use that to determine where we need to be to make the boss go a little faster. There's not a ton of manipulation you can do on this, but you'll notice that every time I've hit the boss when it's going to reset, I try to put myself on the side of the screen where the boss is further away from the corner. And the reason for that is that the boss will generally always try to jump back to the corner that is that you are not on. So if you always give them a much shorter runway, you do save a little bit of time here and there because they are going to jump back to the much shorter area. So now we have our horizontal movement tool. And you'll notice that I'm saving and quitting, or that I'm quitting to overworld from those unlock screens. The game unlocks the move for you when you beat Aaron, and you don't need to stick around or like finish the door in that level to actually unlock any of the abilities. The only downside to this is you'll notice that there was a chest at the end of that fight that we picked up. It was a ninja costume. We will not have, and you can see it here, we don't have that ninja costume in our inventory. And it is because for whatever reason, the costume doesn't get added to your inventory until the level is over, but the skill unlock is available immediately. So there's only one Aaron fight where we don't quit to overworld, and it's because we need the power up that we get from that fight for an additional trick, or for a usage later on. And that one is pretty funny. It's one of the levels that we play the absolute most. It's probably the screen that we play the most over the entire game, and you'll see what that means when we get there. It's a fun little gag for sure. So the rest of World 2 is going to primarily be solid routing and using our horizontal / movement tool and some well-timed refreshes like so. Oh, I shouldn't have said anything. I shouldn't have brought attention to it. What you would want to do there is you would want to use your blade dash and re-jump to go through all of these enemies and just kind of carry yourself to the end of this screen. It was a little sloppy from us, but it is what it is. This screen is supposed to look like what that screen looked like. It's a very long diagonal vertical section of the game. And we don't have any real ability to go vertically with any of our powers right now. So the best bet is for us to kind of do this with the death abusing and using the clouds to just go very, very fast. I think in New Game Plus, this is going to be a much different routed stage because you're going to have access to all of the abilities. But for right now, this is what we're doing. You'll also notice that we've been trying to track down some Shiba Inu, and they are being extremely rude today. They are basically like Hammer Brothers would be in older Mario games, which is to say that they're not random, or that they're not nice. They are random, and that ends up being a bit of a problem for us. Oh, we missed the mushroom. That's all right. That's less all right. What we would like is to deal with the dogs as soon as possible, because if we deal with the dogs sooner, that means we have to worry about less movements on the overworld, which of course means that we have faster stages. Now, at the end of each of these worlds, we have just a boss fight. It's not a stage like you would have, an airship stage or something like that. You don't have to go through a whole stage and then fight a mini boss. Each of these bosses has unique mechanics, and you get a much better sense of what those mechanics are on the Yuzu side of this game, because as mentioned, Kiri has a sword. So based on the story, what we need to do is we need to collect all 5 elemental keys, and each of those elemental keys is guarded by a guardian. The guardians are generally pretty nice and would like to help us, but we're kind of in a rush because, as you can see, somebody is stuck in there, and it might be a little bit our fault. So we're going to be doing our best to help her out. That's Akko. And we're going to, in trying to help her, we need to collect all of the keys, because that should be all we need to do to release her from the elemental prison. So there's going to be 5 bosses in total that we fight, in addition to the boss that we fight at the end of the game. Which is an interesting remap, retouch, refight of the very first boss we fought, that big mushroom in the cave. Yes, it's a mushroom. Yes, play the story. You'll understand. We're now into World 3. And World 3 is the stage where, first of all, we're going to talk to our boy Monty here. Now, we call this cat Monty because you'll notice that this is the Monty Hall problem. You'll also notice that I did it wrong. I did the problem wrong. The way the Monty Hall problem is supposed to work, and I genuinely really love that I get to talk about the Monty Hall problem when explaining tech for a speedrun game. The way that this is supposed to work is the math says you are always more likely to win if you switch. However, you'll remember that we were talking earlier about how the magic postcard is actually magic. The magic postcard settings that we enabled, setting it all to 1, will always put the cloud in the leftmost door if you open the leftmost door first. And when we get to World 5, you'll see that that is consistent because we're going to open the left door and the rightmost door is always going to have the cloud in it. So this is really cool, and it was actually a pretty big discovery routing-wise because previously we were doing a backup coin route. There is a town that you can go to. You may have chanced upon seeing that when I've been using the menu to quit back to Overworld. But there's a town. You can go to a town in the game. The town's really cool. It's kind of like a faux 3D isometric. You kind of walk around. You have free movement, but it's still on a grid system. It's really neat. It's very, very cool. A very cool zone in the game. The downside, of course, is that it's a trip to a different place that you don't have to go to in the game. The plus side is our boy Monty is there, and he'll sell us items, and a cloud only costs 999 coins. We need to get at least 1 cloud before World 5-3. So you can see how being able to consistently get one for free and not have to worry about going all the way back is a lovely proposition for us as far as the speedrun goes. The other cool thing about World 3 is this is where both characters get access to their fancy swimsuits. Now, Kiri's is just a set of flippers, as you've probably noticed, but Yuzu is more of your standard Mario World style character. She has a lot of costumes, and those costumes all grant her specific powers. So, for instance, in World 3, the debut of the shark costume happens, and the shark costume allows her to do a couple of things. The first thing it lets her do is swim like this in the water very, very quickly and very specifically. But it also lets her run on top of water, which is a very novel take on a water power-up. This is the first boss that gets a new ability, and the new ability is jumping at us. So what we're going to do is let it jump. Oh, it doesn't jump until the second hit. I forgot. They do change up their pattern a little bit as we get on. So what we want to do, again, is just try to get to them as close as possible so they use their attack, and we want them to do the shorter of the 2 jump options that they have to get back to where they go quickly. So, but yes, Yuzu gets a bunch of cool powers. Excellent dog RNG here. We really like having dogs early because, again, it will cut down on the overworld time between stages, but also in this case, we get an extra pair of flippers, which is very useful in the rest of the water stages. Now, you're going to see all of the rest of the Aaron fights are going to look very similar to this, and it is because she taught us exactly the move that she does. Blade Dash is the same. Her Blade Dash and our Blade Dash are the same move, which means we can always defeat her, no matter what, by just Blade Dashing away from her. Now, we do need that Power Fox for later, and you'll see why in a little bit. But that is, as mentioned before, the only one of those screens that we don't quit back to Overworld on, and it's because we do need that item. This underwater section has quite a lot of ups and downs, and we do what we would like to have is a set of fins here, and we do have the extras, but I'm going to save them for just a little bit. There's another stage that I prefer to use them on. So for right now, we're going to just go ahead and use our clouds and general, omnidirectional movement on them to get through the stage quick. And that was a pretty nice 3-5. The last two stages in this world are pretty much the same thing. We're going to basically just be trying to move through water as quickly as possible or avoid it entirely if possible. We're going to be using refresh to give us access to quite a bit of extra movement in the air. And just in general, we're going to be trying to avoid slowdowns as much as possible. And this is one of the great things about this game is that a lot of the tech that we have to talk about, things like slope jumps, things like using refresh, all of those things are pretty... Sorry, we're gonna serious mode for a second here. This room has been giving me a bit of trouble recently. Excellent. We love an ascent that looks like that. Train of thought gone. The types of tricks that we use in the run are pretty easy to explain, and because they're all happening basically always, we can take any time that we would like to try to explain them. And if we want to try to explain them in a very specific way, what that kind of gives us the ability to do is we can determine the pace of both donations and vamping and call outs for, if we're doing it for charity specifically. This is the room that I was mentioning previously where we play the game a lot. We literally equip Power Fox and just swim to the bottom with it. As you can see, there's a bunch of cycles and things to dodge, and it just kind of, we're going to get to the bottom at the same speed, so we may as well just use this bad boy and go to town. But yeah, it is because this game is both extremely estimate safe and easy to do comms and explain tricks for, it kind of makes it a very good candidate in my eyes for general marathon runs. And I think most of our marathon runs that we've done with this category so far have proven that that's pretty true. So there are frequently stages where we are going to be able to just take it easy and throw it over to anyone that feels like they need to say something, or if we want to pump up incentives or anything like that. And we have a pretty good sense at this point. And I'm saying we because there's I typically have a commentator with me who has done this, has been there for every run that I've done, and is an absolute charmer on the mic. So, but yes, the way that this tends to work out is we usually have quite a bit of extra time to talk about a variety of things, both in the realm of donations and in the realm of, like, we can talk about other things like how we found the game, what we like about this category, and things like that. 4-2 is a stage that I really like to execute in. It kind of gives you the ability to really chain quite a lot of stuff together if that's what you're looking for to ascend. You can obviously always just use the good old cloud strats. They again, like, literally there's no time loss if you choose to do that. It ends up getting you pretty quickly through places. Now, 4-3, this is a stage that I have a love-hate relationship with. I think the design of this stage is super duper cool. I really love it, but it's really slow. The problem is, all of the ways that I have found so far to try to break this stage, both by clipping into walls and the ceiling and stuff like that, because of the fact that the ceiling and the floor are both moving constantly, it's not consistent, and it typically ends up taking more time than it would take to just do the level normally. So I'm still investigating, but at the moment, the best way to do this level is to just do it, and I do find that kind of amusing. in a game that has all kinds of cool movement tech, and we've already seen some crunches going in the walls and stuff, like, yep, we just do that one normally. This ghost house is very cool. This is another neat usage of the darkness and the... oh, I got stuck under the blocks there. A really neat use of the darkness and the lanterns to kind of give the player a unique experience. So we're going to be climbing this tower basically totally in the dark, and the only thing that we have to go on is the clues that we can get from the right-hand side of the screen. Our general game plan here is going to be to try to ascend and get to that third moving platform on the right, the one that we're on right now, basically as quickly as we can. And then we want to try, I'm not having a great time with it, but we want to try to hit that triangle with some vertical slash, some rising slashes so that we can keep going north. This is the first mini boss that does the jump first. So you'll see what that looks like. They move close a little bit, and then we want to get onto this half of the stage so that they take a short jump, and that means that we can then get them to use their attack faster. So you can see, like, there's not a ton of AI manipulation that we can do here, but it's enough. It does make the fights significantly shorter. The dogs, after World 2, the dogs have been pretty kind today. I'm not going to complain about that at all. And we've got another pair of flips for later. Very neat. So this is the penultimate Aaron fight ability. We got caught there. The ability that this is going to give us is called Full Metal Geta. It is a dive kick, if you're familiar with fighting game terms. And basically what it does is it makes you go down at an angle out of a jump fairly quickly, and it's got a hitbox on the foot. So you can use it to take out enemies below you, and it looks like this. We don't need that ninja suit, so we're leaving. And now we're going to do, we have coming up soon, we're going to be doing a race. We're going to use our flippers here because this is a very all over the place swimming level, and we want to be able to get through it basically as quickly as possible. We're coming up on a neat stage, but there's two neat stages coming up actually. Both 4.6 and 4.7 are very cool. And what we want to do with both of those is a couple of very specific strategies. So 4.6 is going to be a race. You've already seen one of the races that you get to do in this game, like an in-game race. And the that was in World 3. We raced a ghost underwater. And we're going to also be racing a ghost in 4.6. Except this time it's an auto-scroller race stage. And the problem with that is that auto-scrollers are generally pretty slow. And it's not even fair because ghosts can go through walls, they can become intangible and do all kinds of stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to even up the playing field a little bit, and we're going to utilize our crunching abilities a little bit more again. So obviously this is going pretty slow, and we don't want to be caught doing anything. So we're going to also become a ghost because now it's fair. Fair is fair. And we're going to get ahead of these moving walls. Now, I don't know that this was necessarily intentional, but these walls do have both a height and a width. So you can get around them, at least in this version of the game. And that, in total, saves about 20 seconds. GG's, my man. I was the better ghost today. But you'll get them next time, champ. I believe in you. Yeah, so those ice walls do have a height and they do have a width, so you can get around them, which is pretty cool, and I'm going the wrong way. Now, 4.7 is a very cool level. This level is meant to be done all in one shot, and there is an achievement for doing so. This is one that I have spent a little bit of time on, but not nearly as much time as I would like, so let's see if I can get it today. It's looking good so far. Oh, I didn't get my re-jump there. Ah, unfortunate. Well, that's all right. The general gist of this stage is you need to do it without dying. And with Kiri, that means you get to do quite a lot of the cool sword moves and hitting refreshes and doing things back to back. Now we're going to do our fight with the Ice Guardian. This fight requires that we dodge some very specifically colored bacon that comes out of the ground. The actual fight in the Yuzu route is much different than the Kiri route makes it look. But this is usually like a pretty solid little 14-second fight, and then we get to move on to World 5. World 5 is where we're going to get our last and probably most exciting ability. It is called Spirit Rush, and we're not going to see it until after we get through 5.4. But for right now, we're going to do a neat little cycle trick here. So we hug that Tengu because we need to get underneath that particular block of moving wood. And once we've done that, we can skip basically all of the vertical movement in that section. And then we pop ourselves on those spikes there to get to the top of this stage without any negative repercussions. That was really good. I'm very happy with that. 5-1 has the hardest slope jump in the game, and it's because, as you can see, a lot of the platforms towards the bottom of the screen are covered by these clouds. And ideally, what you would want to do there is you would want to, not die. But we did. But it's okay because we still went so quickly horizontally that we either saved or we either didn't lose any time or we saved a little bit by doing it. So you can always go for every trick in this game. And I think that is super duper cool. I missed a bug there, which is a little unfortunate, but it is all right. We just need to make sure we hit key speed here. Okay, so this is a stage where we can really show off how neat the refresh system is. One of the coolest things about refresh is that it's basically up to preference. As long as you're still going through enemies as you do it, you can string together entire stages that look like 5-2. And it's extremely satisfying to do. We're now going to visit Monty for the second time. And again, I said this earlier, but this one we're going to play correctly. We are going to switch, and it's always going to be a cloud. So now we've got our 2 required clouds for the route. The first one we're going to use right here. And that's because this level's got a whole lot of nothing going on. You probably noticed at the beginning of this stage, there is a wooden platform. And as you've probably gathered, the wooden platforms can move in this game. In this case, the way that this stage is supposed to be done vanilla is you hop on that, and then you're supposed to follow it through a bunch of obstacles, dodging enemies, and by the time you get to the door at the end, you've kind of seen quite a lot of both vertical and horizontal movement. It's extremely cool, and unfortunately, it's pretty slow. So for our use here, what we want to do is we want to bring a cloud with us because that lets us just kind of avoid all of the specific movement, and we can take very tight lines and go about this in a very canned way pretty much every time. So the first stage, you really need to keep the cloud the entire time on. This second screen here, you can do using refreshes, and it is a little more difficult than the first screen in that regard. However, that's not a huge concern because, as you can see, it's also a lot shorter than the first screen. There's just more ups and downs, but there's more enemies, which means we get to do more refresh shenanigans. That was a pretty good dog choice. I'm glad that they came to see us. Always nice. Now 5-4, this ghost house has actually already been nerfed a little bit. The cycles were a little brutal when the game first came out. So I do have the badge of honor of having done this stage pre-nerf, but I also think it was definitely necessary. It has a lot of cool things going for it, and I really like that about it, but hoo boy, it was a toughie. It was a toughie early on. The second screen, though, is really easy. We're going to lean on our friends, the ghosts, once more to go vertically. And you can kind of see these blocks are meant to, phase kind of in and out of tangibility. And you're supposed to kind of use those to get to the top and then ultimately go through that door. But we don't need to do that because, as you just saw, we have clouds on demand that kind of get us wherever we need to go when we need to go there. So this is the mini boss for this stage. It's a lot of the same stuff that we've already seen. So we're going to be attempting to do the same kinds of very, very small optimization and manipulation things to get it to do what we want. I did my slash from a little farther away there, which ended up being the business. Okay, very nice, very nice. All right, now we get to fight Aaron. This Aaron fight this is where the Aaron fights become even easier than they have been, because now she's going to try to do the move that she's teaching us. The move that she's teaching us is called Spirit Rush. The way that Spirit Rush works is you have to have key speed, so you have to be going as fast as possible, and once you've reached that point, you need to press and hold the button, the special button, which in my case is right bumper. And when you do that, you kind of charge up. And I'll do my best to demonstrate what that looks like here, because this is the first stage post getting it and the first stage where we have a strat for it. So I'm going to just take a little quiet moment to do that. Excellent. So there you go. That's a Spirit Rush, but it is specifically a Spirit Rush cancel. Now, when you normally do a Spirit Rush, Kiri enters a very, very cool like sheathing animation. It's extremely toony. It's very, very cool. But it slows her down a lot, and it kind of removes all of the momentum from the movement that you just made. What we want to do is try to keep that as much as we can, which means if we press any button while we're in the Spirit Rush and we don't press a direction, and that's the key, we can't press a direction. If we don't press a direction, then we'll maintain our momentum. So pretty similar to how slope jumps work, but we can also cancel the ending animation in its entirety. Oh, unfortunate. We can cancel the landing animation in its entirety, which, as you might imagine, is extremely fast, very, very cool. And it lets us kind of go through quite a few stages extremely quickly. Now, 6-7 is a really neat level, but again, it's one of those that is just generally a little bit slow. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be popping this cloud here and flying up the tower. We need to very specifically avoid enemies that you know, and they're always in the same place, so it's a little bit easier to do that. But we also need to avoid projectiles and these yokai, the umbrella-looking fellas, the umbrella fellas. They have pretty specific jump arcs that'll try to get you. So you've got to avoid them at least until you reach this point, and then you can just hug this left wall, and you're free and clear for the rest of the stage. There's one more yokai at the top who thinks he can get us, but he never can. Nice try anyway, though, pal. Now we're going to fight my favorite boss in the game, and it's not just because I found a quick kill. Folks have been colloquially referring to this as the bow skip, and it is very cool. We're actually going to do this again. It's a very neat little trick. I was basically very interested in trying to just hit this guy with an uppercut right away, and we think what happens at this point is he gets put into hit stun, and because he's falling off stage, he doesn't have time to recover, and so he touches the death plane and ends up dying. So that was the bow skip. It's really cool. It's pretty consistent too. It turns that fight, which, as you can probably see, is a very scary fight in general, into something that is pretty manageable. All right, we're gonna try to pick this up. Oh, unfortunate. In World 6, most of the stages have an SRC route. So we're going to be trying to do them on every stage that we can. Our 6-1 was a little bit slow there because I didn't quite get the first one the way that I wanted to get it. However, we've got 6 more stages to try and make it count. So 6-2 is a pretty classic Mario trope level. It is your standard rising and falling water level stage. And so what we want to do in this level is we want to try to clear it in one cycle, and we have a pretty good route for doing so. Very nice. So you can see at the end there we started to go into the animation, but I canceled it by just doing an attack. So Spirit Rush, very cool, easily one of the coolest things that we get to do in the game, and we get to do it for basically all of these stages. 6-3 has a couple of them, so we're gonna try to do these justice. Really, really solid so far. There's one more, and there's not really a consistent setup for it, so we're gonna go for it just to show it off, but this is one that I don't often go for in runs, but we got it that time, so let's go. That was great. I don't know that I've gotten a sub 31 on that stage before. Heck yeah. Okay, hopefully we fight dogs here. Excellent. Now, these dogs are a little bit of a pain because obviously if you touch lava, that's bad. But we were able to get through that without it taking a death and without it taking a long time. 6-4 is one of my favorite stages to execute in the game. The entire thing is based on cycles. The whole thing looks really, really cool when you do it all correctly. So I am just gonna be quiet for a little bit and let the cool stage kind of speak for itself here. Almost. We lost a little bit of speed. Oh, are we gonna get... No, it moved enough. We should be okay. Sometimes, depending on how you get caught under a crunch like that, you can get crunched for a little while, like probably 5 or 6 deaths in a row until the movable piece of scenery does what you need it to do. So this is the last mini boss that we're gonna fight. You'll notice that this mini boss bought a friend, and that friend is unfortunately a Lakitu, or a Bakaneko in this case, and they throw flaming skulls at us, which are just difficult to deal with in general. So we always want to take care of that first, because if we don't, it makes the fight extremely hard to get through. So this is the last Aaron fight of the run. It is going to be a shot-for-shot refight of the one that we just did in World 5. So we're always going to get the free hit when she goes up for Spirit Rush, and then we are always going to be able to dodge backwards with our Blade Dash, which is her Blade Dash, because that's how it goes. We don't unlock anything here, so we get this ninja costume for free, which doesn't do a ton for us, but I'm going to be using a couple of abilities on the last stage to just give us a little bit of extra safety. 6-5 has a pretty cool set of SRCs here. So that was the first one. Very, very neat. And the second one we're going to start once we get over this... oh, the cat. The rubber band cat. Mario Kart looking cat creature. Okay. We got the second one anyway. And you can see like just how quick that stage goes once you can hit those things. So generally what we want to do there is deal with the cat as we're going across and try to use the yokai. But that ended up working out. 6-6 is another tower climb, but this one is far shorter, and we do have some pretty consistent routing to use Spirit Rush cancels to get through here. So that's what we're going to be doing. Oh, nice. 22 seconds is great. So we've got one more stage where we're going to do a neat trick called Bounceless, and then we're going to fight the last boss, and then we're going to fight the last boss. So yeah, we're getting close to the end of the run. This is basically the last real stage before we're finished with it. We've kind of seen how the game plays. We've seen how easy it is, even if you make a couple mistakes here and there, to get really far really quickly. Now, the one thing that I am currently working on is we just recently broke the 47. Or we broke another minute barrier recently on world records. And so I'm hoping that we can get kind of close to that this time. We're making really good time, which is awesome. But if nothing else, I just kind of want to show that like there's still a lot of optimization to be done with this game. I think the run itself is in a really fun place. It's entertaining to watch. There's quite a lot of interesting stuff that you get to do in the run. And I think that it has proven itself repeatedly through multiple marathons at this point, which I think is a big deal. So I'm just, I just want to show this game off to other folks and try to get people interested in running it. So yeah, we're here at the final fight, and we're gonna play as Yuzu. Yippee! This is the character that you would have played the first half of the game with. So coming back to this character is going to be the kind of thing that is very exciting for folks that have played the entire game. For us, we unfortunately don't really have anything with this character. You can see our inventory is empty. So we can't really do any funny tricks with like using power-ups to try and cheese the boss or healing ourselves if we're going to take extra hits or anything like that. So the Yuzu phase is a little slow. But we're basically going to hit this orb 3 times, And then when we go to jump up for the fourth one, we're going to pop into an unskippable or a skippable cutscene where Kiri jumps out and saves Yuzu. And then we're going to have to do some funny things with Kiri. And then we're basically going to jump on the Mushroom Here's head and we're going to call it a day. So we're making extremely good time. Now, the fun thing about having a sword is that it oftentimes makes you a little bit invincible. That was a little bit unfortunate because the dogs didn't quite give us what we needed there, but you can see what I mean here. And then we're going to try to go for the last one. Oh, we almost got away. But anyway, that's the final fight. So now we're just going to be mashing. We're just going to be letting these foxes talk to each other and explain some things, and then we're going to hop on his head with Yuzu, and that's going to be time. We're actually we're sub 47 by a pretty significant margin here, which is pretty awesome. So I think this might actually be pretty close to another world record. I think 46:58 time, 46:45. So there you go. We got a new world record in the submission video. You love to see it. This has been Kitsune Tales. There's one more thing that we must do for the glorious destiny of this game that we have done in every marathon since we discovered that we wanted to do it. It's a really great way to get chat involved. It's a really great way to cap off this run. We're going to watch the epilogue cutscene. And usually what we do at this point is we tell chat to type the words, "Let's go lesbians," but wait. They're going to press enter and everybody's going to spam it together and they're going to know when. It's very, very apparent. So we ask this of the chat. We tell them to hold. Kiri and Akko get to have their little smooch. It's lovely. And then from the top rope, chat room with the spam. There we are. Let's go lesbians. And that is Kitsune Tales Kiri % new game. Thank you so much for watching this run and hanging out with me while I play a game that is very near and dear to my heart. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but this is the game that got me into speedrunning in general. The story for this game, which we unfortunately don't really see a lot in the run itself, is it's incredible. It's fully voice acted. It is a story about finding yourself and being true to the person that you want to be and not really listening, listening, but with a grain of salt to people that have done similar things, but aren't necessarily the same person as you are. It goes into quite a lot of that. Obviously, gay fox girls is a huge draw. I know that has been a large reason why a lot of people have been excited about this game. It's all fantastic. I really can't say enough positive things about it, and I'm hoping that it is getting released on Switch soon. I'm really hoping that when that happens and the free content update drops for the rest of us, that there's going to be more people getting into it, and then hopefully more people who get excited about Kiri specifically and want to play this route. But yeah, I really appreciate y'all watching this whole run and helping me out with giving me a reason to do more runs and apparently do world records. But I would super love to play this game at the marathon, whichever one this may be submitted to. There's a ton out there, and I'm gonna submit to all of them because one of the things that I got into speedrunning for was the mutual aid. I think it's one of the most powerful tools that we as a community have access to, and I know that we can do a whole lot of good with just a little bit, so I'm gonna just keep trying to get that little bit no matter what. So thank you for your time. I really hope that I get in with this. I hope that this is everything that you would want or need for the marathon, and I would be very excited to play it with you when we reach that point. So, once again, I have been Debonair VT, or Bo for short, and this has been Kitsune Tales, Kiri % new game. See ya!